Hey y'all, thanks for tuning back into Chickanic. I hope everybody's having a great week. Now listen, I am a equal opportunity brand basher or promoter, depending on what unit it is. Now, every time I look through the comment section, it doesn't matter. I get people that are bashing on Echo, bashing on Husqvarna, bashing on Steel. But the top comments I get that everybody can pretty much agree on is they do not like Poulan chainsaws. Why? You see, I look at it like this. There are thousands of people out there with a 20, 25-year-old Poulan sitting in their garage. These are obviously folks that don't have that much to cut, maybe just a limb every few years. They have absolutely no reason to buy an expensive chainsaw. But that's the problem. They only need to use it every few years. So between that period, it's gonna rot if it's just sitting there. But you do not take it to the repair shop. For instance, this wild thing right here. One of my friends brought this in. They had bought a house, said it had been sitting at least 2 years. And just by looking over it, I can tell the primer bulb's cracked. The fuel lines are completely broken inside the fuel tank. And anytime that happens, you definitely need a carburetor kit also. So if you do decide to take it to the repair shop, you're paying at least $15 for a carburetor kit, probably about $5 for a fuel filter, $6 for a primer bulb. Fuel lines are going to be about $4 or $5. A plug is about $4 or $5. Labor is going to be $40. And this thing has the original safety chain on it that's all worn out, so he needs a brand new chain too. That's going to be about $18. With labor, you're looking at around $100 to fix what essentially was a $120 saw when it came out. And I don't want you to spend that because I'm here to save you time, money, and frustration. And to be honest, I actually love to work on Poulan chainsaws. If it's got spark and compression and a good piston and cylinder, I'm gonna make it run. And that's how I look at equipment. Even though it's 25 years old, if I could put a few bucks in parts in it and about 30 minutes of my time to keep it out of the landfill, that's a win-win for me. So that's what we're doing today, guys. If you got an old Poulan Wild Thing or something that looks similar to it, the designs and principles are pretty much the same. Go get it out of the garage and let's fix it. Now, when he dropped this chainsaw off, he brought in about 5 pieces of equipment that had been sitting at that house for 2 years. One of them happened to be a Husqvarna backpack blower. Now, it started up and ran just fine. And the reason it's running right now and this thing's all deteriorated has all to do with how they stored it. Now, the last time they ran this Poulan chainsaw, they completely ran it dry. Primer bulb's dry. You can see inside the fuel tank the pieces of fuel line sitting in there. The fuel line to the carburetor is not attached anymore. And 90% of the time, if your primer bulb and your fuel lines are like that, the diaphragms in your carburetor are probably hard too. But check out this blower that's been sitting for 2 years. We've got the 350 BT, one of the most common backpack blowers sold in the market. I already had it running, so I'm not going to choke it. Runs great, but why after sitting for 2 years? That's because this thing was stored full to the max with fuel. It's got a extremely heavy mix of gas in the tank. The primer bulb had fuel in it. The fuel line still had fuel in it. And that's why I always say, if you're going to store something long term, you need to fill it up with a heavy mix or just straight 2-stroke oil. I've had some chainsaws come in the shop that sat for 10 years. Some of the old timers bring them in full to the max with oil. All I had to do was empty it out, put some fresh fuel in it, and it ran. So that's something to think about, guys. Like always, if you do not know how long it's going to be till you get back to your equipment, definitely use Ethanol Shield. It's a great fuel stabilizer. I've been using it and everything. But if you know it's going to be probably years before you get back to something, store it full with an extremely heavy oil mix or straight 2-stroke. Clean it out of your system, prime it out of your carburetor, flush some fuel in there, and you should be good to go. So let's dig into this Poulan, get it repaired, and show you exactly how easy and simple it is to fix. Now, most of the time when these have been sitting forever, yeah, the air filter is dust. We're just gonna throw that away. Now, I've already looked inside this cylinder, make sure that this was a good candidate for a video, and it looks great, but I want to let y'all see. Because most of the ones that come in, they've been barely used at all. So you can see right there, that is varnish rubbed up and down on the side of the walls. You You can see it real bad towards the top, but it doesn't have any scoring. That's just varnish. We're gonna go ahead and check compression. Three pulls, what is that? We still got 135, 40 pounds. Awesome. I'll go ahead and check for some spark. Oh yeah, we're good. Now that we've established that it's pretty much a brand new saw, that it just has some fuel related issues, let's dig into her. Now to get to the primer bulb, we do need to release the rewind cover, and it takes a T25 to take these screws out. Now this is something I want you to notice about this primer bulb. See how this particular one is held in with 2 screws? Now, a lot of times I would have customers come in and they say, I just need a simple primer bulb for my Poulan chainsaw. The problem is Poulan put 2 different primer bulbs on there. They either have the one with the screws or they have the push-in primer bulb. Now, this thing fits a ton of different units and a ton of different Poulan. So a lot of times I would have to actually know the model. Even if I look it up from the model, sometimes it wouldn't show me which primer bulb it was. So you definitely want to check if you've got the one that takes the screws or just pushes in. Now, if you're in a bind, this push-in one will still work. The nipples on it are exactly the same, but the way it connects is not, so it will be loose in there. Just unscrew this one. The new primer bulb does not come with new screws though, so hold on to these ones. You want to dump out the pieces that were inside the tank. And next, I'm going to use my 8mm nut driver to take off the only 2 things holding everything together is these 2 nuts right here. So super simple to get into everything. I love working on these. And the air filter base will come off. I go ahead and remove this dust cover for the adjustments. Just get it out of the way. And all these lines are pretty much toast. Remove our carburetor. And the rotten fuel lines. One thing you will want to notice, a lot of times when the fuel lines break, they'll leave a little piece in the hole that they go through, so you'll just want to push that through. Now, if you need the primer bulb with the screw holes in it, the part number is a 188-513-1. I get them from Walbro. You can get aftermarket ones probably that are just as fine, but there is a trick to knowing which way the fuel lines go back on. Now, if you have a push-in primer, it's super simple. You've got a short nipple and a long nipple. Short sucks, long blows. So you always know the fuel line going directly back to your tank is blowing the fuel back into your tank. The short one sucks the fuel through your carburetor. So you'll have a line coming from your carburetor to your primer bulb to the short nipple, and a line going from your long one back into your tank to return the fuel. The one with screw holes though, guess what guys? The nipples are exactly the same. One's offset from the other one just a little bit, but the way to tell which one sucks and which one's blows, push it in, put your finger over it. If it holds pressure, that's the one that sucks. And you heard that where it was sucking. The other one, if I cover that up, I can't even push it in. So we know that that's the return, the one that's towards the center more, the one that's offset just a little bit more, that is the one that sucks. Now, before we go any further, I do want you to see this. Fortunately, part of the fuel lines are still stuck on this carburetor. There's a skinny line and a slightly fatter line. Now the skinny line always goes to the fuel filter. Now this one can be sort of hard sometimes because both of your inlet and outlet are on the same side. So if these fuel lines are completely missing, you're not going to know which way to hook it back up. But fortunately, we see that the small line going to the fuel filter is connected to the top. The fatter line that connects to the primer bulb that sucks the fuel through the carburetor goes to the bottom. So since I know the primer bulb's on this side and the fuel line has to go all the way under the carburetor to the right side of it to suck the fuel through it, I'm gonna make this line about 5 inches. And before I put my primer bulb back on my saw, I'm gonna go ahead and attach the line. That way I know which one's which. So next up, I'm gonna go ahead and cut my return line. I know it goes from the primer bulb to this little hole in the back, so I'm gonna cut about 6 inches. Now I cut it about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch longer than it needs to be, because the way I get it back in that tiny little hole is I cut it straight down the center and sort of make it at a point there. That way I can get it in the hole really easy. I can go in with my needle nose pliers in through the fuel tank, give it a little tug in there, because just the outside diameter of the fuel line actually holds it in the housing. Just slide her on in. Flip her over. And tug it in a little bit. And it should look just like that once you get it in there, just snugged in there. All it does is return the fuel to the tank. So now let's pop this primer bulb back on. You'll want to get your screws started just a little bit because this does not have threads in it. So set it right on that hole. And then you can do it before or after installing the primer bulb. This is my return line. I'm putting it on that extra nipple on the primer bulb. Now, if you're wanting to know about the diameters of what size line that you need, the outside diameter is 3/16 and the inside diameter is 3/32. That's the line that's going to be your return line and the line sucking the fuel from the carburetor to the primer bulb. Now the line that goes from your fuel filter to the carburetor, it's smaller. It's going to be a 0.080 inside diameter and a 0.140 outside diameter. Now, how much do we cut of it? Well, we know we're going to cut 3/4 of an inch, probably 1/2 inch, just to get it through the hole that we're going to take off once we've got it through the tank and then reattach our fuel filter. I'm going to need about 3 inches laying inside of the tank, and then I'm going to need another 3 inches or so on the outside getting to the carburetor. So just to be safe, I always cut a little longer than I need. You could always make it shorter. Cut it down the center again. Just like that. Get it started in our hole. Flip it on over, grab my needle nose. Oop. And pull it on through. We're going to pull it all the way out so I can cut that little tip off that I cut sideways and put my fuel filter back on. And you want to make sure there's enough fuel line in your tank to where the fuel filter will lay completely to the right front of your fuel tank. I'm going to go in, give it a little stretch, make it a little easier to get on that fuel filter. Set that and pop her back in. Put our rewind back on. All right, so fuel line's done. How easy was that? Let's dig into this carburetor. I'm gonna go ahead and remove both sides here. Actually looks really good. It's got a bunch of chainsaw goo debris in the screen. We're gonna take that out. But look at how clean that is. This isn't even sucked in. It's probably brand new. Let's see what this diaphragm on the other side looks like though. Oh yeah, that's hard. All right, go ahead and take this off. It's a little stuck. It's been on there for a minute. Oh yeah. You can hear it. I'm going to take our needle out. Everything looks really good. Now, when taking your high and low adjustment out, you're going to want to know where it's set at right now. So we've got, get the dirt off here. We got our high adjustment and our low adjustment. So how you do that, we're going to screw inward. So on the low, I'm going to go half a turn, 1 full turn, half a turn, another full turn. That's 2 turns and a smidge. So we know the low is out 2 turns, so we can completely remove that now. On the high, we're going to go half a turn and 1. So we've got 1 on the high and 2 on the low. Now, when setting your needles to the side so you don't forget which one's which, I always put my low on the left. Sometimes the low is longer, but sometimes it's the same. Now we're going to go in with a good spray. I don't think this needs to go in the ultrasonic cleaner. We're going to go with our carburetor cleaner into our high and our low through our needle hole and then give it a good once over everywhere. Now, if you need a carburetor kit, it is a Walbro K10 WAT kit. You're going to have a lot of extra pieces because it fits a lot of different carburetors. I buy metering diaphragms in bulk from HIPAA, so I think I can get away with just a brand new needle and metering diaphragm and gasket. Let me throw her together. All right, that was super simple. Let's throw her back on the saw. Now, one thing you are going to notice, you have your throttle lever rod and you also have the kill wire. You're going to want to get these lines underneath both of those because they go to the other side of the carburetor. Now we can put our carburetor back on. Before we do, we want to put the carburetor back onto our rod. Just slip it all into place. And then put our choke lever back in its spot. Now we've got our 2 lines here, our skinny and our fat one. The fat one goes to the primer bulb, so it's going to connect to the one that's lower on the carburetor. This is a little bit of a long line. I'm going to cut off just a smidge. And I can attach it to the lower nipple. Make sure you don't have a kink. Make sure it's long enough to where it doesn't kink up on there. Cut off just a little bit of this fuel filter line. Get my tiny little pliers here so I can stretch this end out just a little bit, make it easier to get on that nipple. Just like that. All right, I'm gonna pop on my air filter base, put in a plug, and let's see if she fires up. Pop in a fresh air filter. See if she's gonna prime. Oh yeah, she's priming good. Now, from my experience of working on probably 1,000 of these Poulan chainsaws is that even though you know where the high and low is originally set at, and it's great to try to start out from there, most of the time it's not going to work for these older ones. So I go ahead and pull each adjustment out at least a full turn, and I might have to go more, might have to go less. We'll see once she gets started. Give her my couple love pulls. Maybe an extra one since she sat for so long. well, she sat for a minute, okay, guys? She's gonna need a little help. Well, she ain't getting any fuel. So I'm going to flood the cylinder with a little bit of gas, and the best thing you can do to get everything moving around again is to get it to pop off and start running. So hopefully that'll loosen her up. On choke, got her turned on, give her a few of my love pulls. Take her off choke. Well, she's Poulan. Give her some gas with my foot. So guys, it really is that simple. Hopefully, if you've got one sitting in the garage, this video will help you fix it all by yourself to save you time, money, and frustration in the future. If you find yourself coming back over and over again, think about hitting that subscribe button. And if you ain't tired of me yet, check this video out right here.